الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر ولله الحمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، يقول الله عز وجل: شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us in this beautiful verse, it was in the month of Ramadan that the Quran was revealed as guidance for mankind. Clear messages giving guidance in distinguishing between right and wrong. So any one of you who is present that month should fast. And anyone who is ill or on a journey should make up for the lost days by fasting on other days later. Allah wants ease for you, not hardship. He wants you to complete the prescribed period and to glorify Him for having guided you so that you may be thankful. And if we understand that this past month of Ramadan was a gift for all of us, it was a time for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to grow as individuals, to better our relationship with Him. And through that we were fasting and praying, reading Quran, making adhkar, and finally making dua to Him Azza wa Jal. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our prayer, to accept our fasting, to accept our recitation of the Quran, and to accept our du'as. Ameen. And if we understand that month was the month of personal betterment, if we understand that that month was a month of mujahada, and if we understand that that month was one where we were supposed to spend time and better ourselves, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this Eid as an opportunity to reflect on how we spent that month. Because it is on this day that He sallallahu alayhi wasallam, He would change the path from which He went to the Eid on the way back, so He would meet different people and interact with more. It allowed Him the opportunity to deal and speak to and show love to people that He did not have the opportunity on the way there. So we need to ask ourselves, on this Eid, on this day in which we socialize and we meet and we greet and we share, are we going to show what we learned about ourselves this past Ramadan? Are we going to show that extra kindness? Are we going to show that extra benevolence? Are we going to show that extra grace? Because this Eid is that opportunity. That if I want to know, was my Ramadan accepted? If I want to know, was my prayer accepted, and my fasting, and my reading of the Quran, and my dua, and my adhkar, how am I going to deal with people on this day? And many of us might have experienced it just on the way in. Many of us might have experienced it when we were parking our cars. Many of us might have experienced it when we were sitting here lining up for these rows. So we need to ask ourselves, how did I experience it and what did I do in these moments? How am I spending my Eid? And this day of Eid, am I making this day of Eid about myself, or I'm making this day of Eid about my family? Because if I wanted to do something for myself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the entire past month. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with the month of Ramadan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed me to make i'tikaf, and He allowed me to be alone with myself during the Qiyamul Layl, during my stay in the masjid, during my engagement with the Quran. Today is a day of engagement with others. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he described this day as a day of eating and drinking, as a day of enjoyment, as a day of merriment, and as a day of socializing. Don't make this day a burden on others. Don't make this day a burden on yourself. Make it a day of happiness, make it a day of kindness, and make it a day of enjoyment. وَقُولُوا قَوْلِي هَذَا وَاسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ لِي وَلَكُمْ لِسَائِرِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ كُلِّ ذَنبٍ وَخَطِيئَةٍ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، يقول الله عز وجل: لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة. That in the Messenger of Allah is a perfect example, and part of that perfection is this day, where he sallallahu alayhi wasallam would spend the nights in i'tikaf, He would spend the nights in prayer. He would spend the nights waking up his family, spend the night in dhikr, in remembrance, and reviewing the Quran with Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam. But on the Eid day was a day for the family. On the Eid day, the day was a day for the companions. The Eid day was a day for interacting and loving and dealing with others. So if we want to follow the prophetic example, if we want to be like our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then today is that day. That day is for our families. The day is for enjoyment. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept everything we put forward in the past month. I ask Him azza wa jal to accept our prayers today. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on all of those who have passed. I ask Him azza wa jal to give shifa, to give healing to all of those who are ill. I ask Him azza wa jal to allow those and help those who are in debt out of that debt. And I ask Him azza wa jal to allow those who are in any type of financial hardship out of that hardship. And in line with that, walillah alhamd, we've had 3 different centers come together to rent the space, and there is a cost to renting the space. So please, on your way out, please remember to donate generously to help recover some of those costs. But we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless all of those that organized this event. We ask Him azza wa jal to bless all of those who came to this event, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to increase us in our patience. Taqabbalallahu minna wa minkum wa Eidukum Mubarak.
بركات بركات عيدكم